Session, we'll be talking a little bit about some of the modules that you have hopefully gone through. If you haven't, totally fine. We'll do kind of a check-in, like I said yesterday, at the end of the week. But I did want to check in and see how kind of you've now gone through 2 full days of summer bridge, and I wanted to see how that's going for you, if things are working out, if they're not working out. Just wanted to gauge and see how everyone's feeling with summer bridge. Can I see some thumbs up if things are going well, if they're not going well? Any feedback that you have? Okay, so I'm seeing some thumbs up. Cool, cool. All right, so I'm assuming that there are no concerns about anything. Y'all are doing great. We don't have to address anything.
I have a question. So like what happens with like if you like with late homework or something?
Yeah, that's a good question. We had a staff meeting this morning with some of our leaders. And so we're gonna check in with the faculty about, I know for our cohort specifically, some assignments were closed. And so I don't think that's going to be, we're probably gonna reopen those. So you should be still able to submit things even if you don't submit it on time. I do want to I did see the numbers of students that submitted assignments for last night. I just do want to remind you that you are getting credit for this, for participating in Summer Bridge, which is the first time that we've been able to do that. And so if you don't submit things at all, then you just won't get credit. And you're essentially just missing out. Let me just tell you that even taking a 1-unit class is pretty pricey. So you're getting this for free right now. So I encourage you to take it seriously, even though it is just for summer, because you'll end up getting some class credit. But we'll check in with the faculty about opening up the assignments. If there's anything that you still need to submit, then I encourage you to do that, and try to stay on top of just submitting things in general. But if you need to submit it a little bit late, also keep that communication open with your faculty, just so that they know. Cool. Any other questions about any of that? Perfect. All right, so just a quick agenda for today. I did want to check in just to see how things are going, which I just did. It seems like things are rolling smoothly. Again, if you have any concerns with anything, please feel free to email me. You can directly private message me here on Zoom. But I'm glad that things are going well. Any questions about the town hall meetings from yesterday? I know there were a lot of videos, all about services that you can apply to. No one has questions? Okay, cool. Well, I'll assume that everything is going well. Please, if you haven't had a chance to watch those videos are specifically about student services that you can utilize while being here at Sonoma State. And so, please watch them so you get some information, you know how to apply. The leaders and myself will be following up with you just to ensure that you know this information, because we want to make sure that you don't miss out on any kind of application deadlines, and getting the support that you need. So if you haven't had a chance to watch those, please do so soon. Perfect. So now we'll move in to Araceli's introduction. And so, like I said yesterday, I'll have the leaders kind of just introduce themselves so that you know them kind of beyond their role as a Summer Bridge leader, because they're students, they're human beings who have a life, who are great. And so I want you all to get to know them a little bit more. If you have any questions about their experience, please jot them down and then feel free to ask them at the end of their presentation. So Araceli, whenever you're ready.
Hello, everyone. Oh, that's so cute. Sorry, I hadn't seen it. Okay. Hi, everyone. So I'm Araceli Ara, she, her, hers, ella pronouns, and a bit about me. Um, so first and foremost, I just want to put out there that when Ricky asked for these pictures, he's like, put a baby picture. So that's me as a baby. And I'm gonna just sort of go through my pictures and sort of explain like what it means to me and stuff like that. So I guess to reiterate, I am a psychology major and a Spanish minor. So if you're interested in any of those and want to see what it's about in my experience, I can definitely like reach out to me, private message me, or so on. Or I am Team SpongeBob. Oh yeah, I'm Team SpongeBob's leader. So shout out to my team. And then shout out to you all, Cohort 7. But yeah, so I'm from Hayward, California. I am hopefully a graduating senior, and I say hopefully because obviously I want to pass my classes and not stay an extra semester. So yeah, a bit about me. So I'll start off with my family. They're the most important thing to me. I do have a younger sister, and then I do also have my parents as well. So I feel really fortunate. They've always been the backbone of my successes and just very supportive in whatever I do. Um, and then moving on to the right, the bottom right, like that middle picture. Um, so I'm a part of the first and second year transition program. So what this means is that usually like first year, so like you all should be in a class, right, Ricky? In the UNIV class?
Yes.
Okay, perf. So it's like a university class, like an introduction class to college life type of thing. And you should have a peer mentor. So a peer mentor is someone who provides information for you in regards to like campus life, like, you know, resources on campus, sort of like a summer bridge, but it's throughout your first year. Summer bridge leader, but it is throughout like your first year. So I used to be a peer mentor within the FAST program, and I did work with EOP students. And then I became a staff coordinator, which is sort of a peer mentor for the peer mentors. So providing peer mentors resources, checking in with them, sort of seeing like how they're working with students and so on. So you should have a peer mentor, and that peer mentor, I'm actually in a weird way going to be their boss, and see how they're working with you all. And so on. So yeah, that's sort of what I do. That's my job on campus. I really enjoy it. I think I've always been connected with like students and stuff like that, and that's why I sort of want to pursue higher education. So doing something sort of like similar to Ricky, like advisory role, or even like higher up. And then I'll point out, so I am in a sorority. It's called Lambda Theta Nu Sorority Incorporated. And we stand for academic excellence, community service, and sisterhood. And what drew me to this sorority is I saw the ladies tabling during my summer bridge. And I was like, I didn't even know what a sorority was. I was like, but I knew I wanted to get involved. And they sort of like opened my eyes to see like, you know, what would be best for me. So I really just, I love my sorority. It's sort of like a family. It is a family. And I know they got me through everything. And yeah, just, I really appreciate like everything that they've done. And if you look at the picture, there's actually another summer bridge leader there, Sally, their team cat dog. And they're like right next to me. Like I'm at the bottom and they're like towards the right. So yeah. And then, oh, thanks, Ricky. And then, yeah, so I'm so I'm involved with like the first, to reiterate, first and second year transition program. I'm in a sorority, and I've also done like jump. So if y'all are interested in learning about jump, so yeah, so Jump is joining us making progress. So it's like I really encourage you all to check it out. There's a bunch of volunteer opportunities with like after school programs with like elementary schools to volunteering like at a garden or like trips and stuff. So highly encourage you all to check it out and follow them. I don't know, again, with everything virtual, I don't know how that will look like in the fall, but I highly encourage to check it out. It's another place to build community. And then something that I like, as you can see, there's like, I feel like I'm involved in like, again, with Summer Bridge. This is like my third time doing it as a leader, and like other stuff on campus as well. I just feel like it's very crucial to like find your place on campus. And if you feel like you can't find one, like create one. I know I'm still learning. Like yesterday I attended the mixer and I was like the Alianza and Mecha mixer, and I was like, whoa, like I didn't even know about some of the things that they offer. So definitely just always checking out stuff. I think that's what makes it home and like college. Like it feels like college, at least for me. And I know I've talked to like other people, and it's like once you find your place, it's like what keeps you going, and like you just feel a part of the community. And that can be anything. I haven't joined any clubs, but I know there's a ton of amazing clubs to check out. Or even if you don't feel like you're ready to commit to like clubs or an org, definitely just checking out their events. I know, like, for example, Greek Life, there's a lot of like recruiting events with like socials. So you can check out like you can go bowling or whatever. Again, I don't know what that will look like virtual. I'm assuming like icebreakers and stuff, but with clubs as well. Yeah. And then towards the right, you see a picture of me and it says psychology. So there's this thing at Sonoma State called Faces of SSU. And this is like, I don't know if y'all have seen like any college campus where there's like banners of students. So pretty much I got chosen to be a face of SSU and sort of demonstrate like what a sea wolf is. And I think it's one of like the highest things in my college career for sure. I remember entering Summer Bridge and being like, I want to do that before I leave here. And I feel like I'm fortunate enough to do so. And the reason why I also put it is because Sally actually encouraged me to like show it off. So being virtual during fall, I won't get to see my banner in person, like as much as I want to. So Sally was like, just put it in there, be proud of it. So that's sort of why I added it. But yeah, that's pretty much about me. I feel like, and I have mentioned it before, but if y'all know Andre, he's an EOP advisor. He tends to say, I like to know a little bit about a lot. And I feel like that's sort of me. Like I really try to know a little bit about a lot. And if I don't know, I try to guide you towards the right direction. At the end of the day, that's something that I do want to leave you all off with is like, I think it's crucial and important to build connections and to build community and to network, even if it is virtual, because you never know who knows who. And the quote that I actually did hear yesterday was, it's not about who you know, it's about who knows you. So, you know, build those connections, reach out to your advisors. Ricky, reach out to Ricky. I know he has a lot of connections, or anyone, and just try to get your name out there, and like hopefully that'll help you with your future careers. But yeah, that's a little bit about me, and let me know if y'all ever have any questions, concerns, and I hope to make this the best for you all.
Thank you, Lara. Are there any questions for Ada or any of the pictures?
Mommy. Ma.
Oh.
Ma.
Okay, no questions then. Well, please connect with Ada. Ada is an amazing leader. So if you need any connections, again, like I said earlier, in the week, this is really the time to ask a lot of those questions before you jump into fall. And I totally understand that sometimes you don't really know what you need to know. And so, really there's no such thing as a stupid question during this time. We really want to make sure that you are fully prepared, even if it's just about kind of like their own journey, their own experience. I think there's something valuable in talking to each other about that. So thank you, Ada, for doing this. Perfect. So before we jump into the other part, I did want to put a reminder out that we do have another meet and greet today from 1 to 2, and it's the Asian Pacific Islander um, an American Faculty and Staff Association, as well as our APIA student club. So if you identify as APIA and you'd like to come and kind of just mingle with other students and faculty and staff, please go ahead and do that. Feel free to take a picture of the Zoom ID. If not, you can go ahead and find this on your Canvas. And so, again, these are spaces for students to just come together outside of academics and outside of these like advising meetings to really just be real with each other and talk about kind of building that community at Sonoma State. So I wanted to put that out there. Perfect. So now I did want to put out, let's do this. I know that on Monday during our student panel, there were a set of questions that weren't answered just because we had a pretty long list and a limited amount of time. And so I did want to cover some of those questions with the assistance of our leaders. And so leaders, I know I'm putting you on the spot, but I will kind of just ask the question if you have anything to provide. I'll try to chip in as well. But also students, if you have anything that maybe you wanted to ask during that student panel that you didn't, I want you to ask that. And I do want to kind of just remind you all that this is obviously a safe space for questions. Obviously being mindful that we are recording our session. And so if there's anything that you want to kind of just ask us privately, feel free to do that. You can do that in a drop-in, or you can just reach out to your leaders as well. But I kind of want to give you this space to kind of ask those real questions as well. But I'll start off with just one, and maybe Jorge and Araceli, if you have anything to include. So the question was, do you recommend living on campus at any point? I don't know if either of you want to add to that.
I'm sure I can add to it. I loved living on campus because it sort of in some way put me into the deep end and made me mature a lot. So I think that was a big plus. And it teaches you how to meet like people, how to have like certain conversations, like hey, how do we keep this clean, you know? It's also another way of networking. So you get to meet new people from possibly different majors or majors that are similar to yours. SSU offers housing cohorts almost like this one. So you can have like an LGBTQ cohort or first year, like first generation cohort. And those are awesome. They also provide cool events provided by the RAs. And yeah, that's sort of my little spiel on that. I don't know if Ada wants to add a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like you said it perfectly. Yeah, I really would highly encourage, if you can, like at any point, live on campus. I think it has its pros and cons, definitely, but I think it is an experience at the end of the day. So if you feel like you're able to, definitely go for it. I feel like it can teach you a lot.
Perfect, thank you. Anyone have any questions about that housing piece that you all want to ask? No? Okay. Perfect. Cool, so this was a question. And it said, can anyone explain the process of rushing a fraternity and sorority? Can new students rush? So I don't know if you.
Me? No, I'm kidding. So I do want to put it out there that yes, first years can rush or go through a process. But I do want to say that each process is different and they might have different requirements. So for example, I know like we're broken up into like 3 different councils. So there's Panhellenic, which are like the sororities, interfraternal council, which is like the fraternities, and they tend to be predominantly white, both of these. And then there's the multicultural ones, which are a mixture of fraternities and sororities. So with that being said, each of them have their own individual process. I know, like, for example, Panhellenic has like a rush week, as well as I believe the IFC Interfraternal Council. And then multicultural is all really different. For example, I know my sorority, we don't typically intake until spring, just because we like to let those who are interested sort of look around and see if it's the right fit for them during their first semester, and then like go for it. And 2 things. One, definitely you are interested in that sort of thing, feel free to reach out. But I do encourage you to check them all out, and try to go to their events. I believe a lot of them will have virtual events. Check them out and see if it's something that you see yourself doing and being a part of. And then 2, yeah, so check them out. And 2, if it's not for you, that's okay. There's many more things you can be a part of, as well as if it's not for you within that moment. So like, let's say you try your first year, but you're like, this is too much for, like, I'm trying to just adapt to college life itself. You can definitely join later on as well. And again, just be mindful of, because I believe some don't intake, like I know we don't intake graduating seniors. But yeah, that's something to keep in mind. Like if you feel like your first year, you're not ready for it, but you might want to try your second year, then go for it. So yeah, it's all about each requirement, but I would encourage it. I know it has definitely changed my life. And I've definitely had a lot of networking opportunities because of it.
And I would just like to add that some of my friends are in frats and sororities, and I go to these events and they're just fun. It's just fun. So it doesn't hurt to attend an event here and there. And yeah, like I say, it's networking at the end of the day.
Great. Any questions about, kind of follow-up questions about this?
I have a question. So, I have 2 questions actually. So from what I understood from what Arda was saying was that you guys only recruit in like near the spring, and then for the online events, where do you find those?
Yeah. So the spring one pertains to my sorority specifically, but it could change. I know it could change at any point. Like we could recruit in fall. And the way you would follow up if we're like really going through with it is through, I recommend Instagram handles. So if you, and I'll put it in the chat. I'll put like a bunch of handles that you can look at with different councils. And I think right now the best way is Instagram. And feel free to DM any that you're interested in.
Did you have a second question, or is that?
That was it. Just like if they recruited in like the fall or spring, and then where to find their events.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and you'll also be in one of the town meetings. Student involvement covers kind of the website of where you can go and kind of just get more official information, I would say. And so feel free to check that one out as well. But on campus within the student involvement office is it the Office of Fraternity and Sorority Life? Is that what it's called? I don't know. Yeah. And there's an advisor that you can also talk to that's there. So Perfect. The next question is, would you say that Sonoma State is generally inclusive in a safe space?
I would say SSU has its safe spaces. So EOP being one of them. EOP offers you a lot of great resources. And even besides that, if you ever just want to talk to somebody, you can go in and rant or just talk about life. Um, I also know that we have certain organizations, like we have BSU, and other clubs like that offer support if you identify as a certain you know person. We also have like LGBTQ Alliance, and I encourage you, if you don't find a safe space that's comfortable for you, you can always make one, um, and we will gladly back you up on that. So I don't know if Ada wants to add a little bit more.
Yeah, I think definitely I agree with Jorge. I think there are certain spaces that do feel more comfortable compared to others. I know for me, the hub is a great place. So it's this location on campus. I don't know what it's like. I can't recall what it stands for right now. And there should be actually, today, actually, funny enough, during the town meeting, there's a video about the hub that you can learn more about it. Um, but I know that's a safe space for me. And I know that the people there are very accepting. And yeah, they have an IG too, SSU Hub, I think. So yeah.
Yeah. Um, I mean, anything, something else I would add just to that. I mean, we know that safe means very different things to different people. And so I know for me, being a person of color going through Sonoma State a couple of years ago, it was very different than what it looks like now. Specifically talking about kind of the makeup of staff, the makeup of the student population. Um, are we 100% diverse? No. Are there efforts that are being put into place to change that? Yes. And so I think that's a big part is, even my position coming or being funded to bring in additional advisors. That was one of the efforts that was put into place a couple of years ago, so that you could see people who looked like you in kind of these advisor roles. And so it definitely has changed. I know that, anywhere kind of just nationwide, work is still being done to make more inclusive spaces. And so I just wanted to kind of just add that in there as well. Do y'all have any questions about that? Any follow-up questions or concerns? No? Okay, cool. All right. There is a question about work study. I don't know if either of you would like to kind of share. I can share kind of more of the logistics about what that is. Not everyone has work study. It's based on your financial aid. And so we can take a look at that during your one-on-one if you come in and meet with me. If you already had your one-on-one with me and you want to talk about financial aid, we can totally do that as well. But work study is basically an amount of money that is allotted for you to get while you work on campus. And so let's say you get the maximum, which is $3,000 for the year. That means that you split it in half, for one for fall semester, one for spring. And that's not necessarily money that you get kind of upfront. That's money that you can earn up. And so that kind of 1,500 is the max amount that you can earn in work study. So let's say you work on campus in dining, and you work in the kitchens, and that you kind of have, let's say less than 20 hours of work. The department would then essentially pay you from this budget that's been allotted from you. Half of your paycheck comes from work study and half of it comes from their own budget. And so you'll see that a lot of departments like to hire work study students. because it's cost efficient for them, obviously, because you still are getting kind of the same amount of money, but being paid a little bit, kind of half is being offered through your financial aid and half of it through their department. I don't know, Ara or Jorge, if you have work study and you've worked on campus, kind of if you want to share your experience about that.
So I did have work study freshman year. I was working in both the dining halls and at, I'm blanking on the name. Sorry. Ada, do you remember the cafe next to the library's name?
Yeah. Charlie Brown's?
Charlie Brown's. I was a barista at Charlie Brown's. And I loved both my positions because it was, again, another way of networking and meeting all the students and staff. I'd also like to add that they are completely flexible, so they will work around your class schedule. So don't feel like you have to change around your classes in order to fit your work schedule. It's actually the opposite. What else would I like to add? And yeah, that's sort of my experience with work study.
So I also had work study my first year. Well, I don't know if I still have it. I haven't checked, but I know. So I actually, through volunteering with Jump and working with like the after school programs, that's where I got to actually get paid, but like also, well, I guess it wouldn't be volunteering if you're getting paid, but I would get paid to do that because I had work study with certain programs versus like people who were just volunteering. So that's sort of my experience with it.
Cool. Any questions about that, about work study or about working on campus that you might have? No? Okay, cool. Like we said earlier, we don't know what that's going to look like in the fall. So we don't, if you do have work study, that's something that we'll need to figure out kind of also as a university. And so we'll figure out if you are planning on working on campus. I know that we, at least in our case department, we have hired students and they've been working remotely. And so I'm assuming that maybe that'll be a thing for fall, but don't quote me on that yet. Okay, cool. So let me just pull something up. Again, just as a reminder, drop-ins are going on. And so today is pretty slow, I would say, with drop-ins. So if you want to talk about financial aid, you want to talk about anything else, there will be a financial aid session later on this week. But if you kind of want more of a one-on-one, kind of just an understanding of your financial aid package, then we could totally do that. So again, that worksheet has different tabs on the bottom. So Monday and Tuesdays are locked just so that no one signs up accidentally under those days. And so the Wednesday one is pretty open if you do want to just check in. We could totally do that. So for today, or actually for tomorrow, I did want to kind of just bring up a module that I encourage you to take a look at. Share this. And so leaders too, if you want to incorporate this at any point in your breakouts. But Redwood Credit Union is it's a local bank here in Rohnert Park. And they typically will do a session in person called Bite of Reality. So how many of you think that you are, smart with money, you know how to save, you have a savings account already? Raise your hand if you fall into that category. And raise your hand virtually too if you don't have your camera on. So I'm not seeing a lot of you, so I'm assuming that you're not maybe that smart with money. How many of you struggle with saving money or maybe even making money? All right, I see a few of you turning your camera on. Okay.
There's actually someone rose their hand. Berenice, I think.
Okay, perfect.
It's making money is easy, but it's just keeping the money and not spending it that's hard.
I feel it. Yes, yes, yes. Perfect. So how many of you have, like, I guess, have you, any of you have a credit card? Meaning they already sucked you into the horrible world of credit cards? And I can't see the raising hand for some reason, so maybe Ada and Jorge, if you want to tell me if anyone. Um, cool. Well, with Redwood Credit Union, and we're not sponsored. It sounds like a sponsorship now, but Redwood Credit Union, they're the person that works there and kind of facilitates the Vita Reality is an alum of Sonoma State, and we work very closely with them because they really like educating students on what it means to have like a checking account. So maybe you don't have one, maybe you have no idea what I'm talking about. So maybe this module would be helpful. But basically, there's about 5 different modules that you can go through. One of them on checking accounts, one of them on creating a budget. So if you need help doing that, which I probably should join that module. Kind of just showing you how to budget when, especially when you get financial aid, and if you're getting financial aid, and if you're getting especially a refund, it's important to know how to budget that money because your financial aid packages change every year. So it could be this year you have a pretty strong financial aid package. Next year things change, your family made a little bit more money, then that kind of can shift your financial aid package. There's a module about healthy financial habits, how much you should be spending, how much you should be saving, such and such. And then credit cards. Many of you are 18 already, so credit cards companies are definitely looking for you, especially because they know that you don't have a credit and that you are, kind of just fresh in that area. And they'll try to give you kind of a credit card that says, oh, has low interest, such and such. But at the end of the day, it can definitely mess you up. And so, same thing with paying for college. Like, what are alternative ways that you can pay for school? And so they really kind of provide you with those different modules. With financial aid, I did want to say, and we'll take a look later this week and do a worksheet on your financial aid package so that you can see if you are getting a refund check or if there's any kind of outstanding balance that you'll have to pay out of pocket, or if you have alternative scholarships. But I don't know if the leaders have anything to say about this, but my biggest tip with a refund check, if you get one, is to not just spend it and blow it off on just anything. I made a horrible decision when I was a student, and I would use my refund check because prior to me coming to Sonoma, I was on Metro PCS and I had, some phone. I was like, I want an iPhone. I want to be bougie. And so I was like, let me use my financial aid package and buy one. And then things like, oh, let's go to dinner. Let's go do this. So looking back, amazing memories. I love them. But financially, probably not the smartest decision. So, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about which ways, you should be using that money. You can use it really for anything. The university doesn't track that, but you do want to be kind of just mindful of those things. So this will be for tomorrow. I encourage you to check that out. For tomorrow too, we'll be meet the majors and we'll go about this. We'll kind of go more in depth tomorrow about it. But if you are especially undeclared, I highly encourage you to go through the meet the majors. If you're already declared, I still encourage you to look through these. Maybe you want to pick up a different major or a double major, or maybe you want to do a minor. I encourage you to look into those as well. And for those asking about fraternity and sorority life, that module kind of opens up tomorrow as well. So for today, you will be going through kind of the same thing that you've gone through yesterday. And so again, just a reminder for tonight, we do have trivia night. So I really hope you can join us for this. It's a really awesome way to get involved and just have fun and kind of just interact with other people outside of your group. So I know that as I've been meeting with some of you, you've mentioned about wanting to meet new people, wanting to feel like you're still here in person. Again, this is an outlet where you can do that. So today the hub has a presentation. IT, if you need any help with your computer, if your computer Breaks during the academic year, obviously being away kind of is different, but when you're on campus, they can definitely help you out with any kind of IT related issue that you have. LARC is our Learning and Resource Center, Academic Resource Center. So if you need any tutoring, you know, they've provided kind of everything for you all to understand what their services offer. And then McNair Scholars Program. This one you probably, it's probably one of the shortest videos you'll ever watch, but you probably won't feel like there's any connection to you right now. But this is a program if you're interested in going to graduate school. If you don't know what grad school is, it's essentially after getting your bachelor's degree, you can go on to graduate school if you want to kind of specialize in something more specific. And this program helps students, especially underrepresented students, go into graduate school. So they help you with funding if you need to go interview a school. They help you kind of just prepare yourself. So highly encourage you to watch this too. It's very, very short, but it gives you kind of an idea of what you can expect. The university library, this is a very amazing resource, very different than in high school. I know in high school it's probably just books, or maybe things have changed now. But they offer things like they lend you a laptop if you need one. Some of your professors might put some textbooks on reserve that you can access without having to buy the book. So I highly encourage you to check out the library module as well. Cool. We are coming kind of down to the last few minutes. Are there any questions before I head out? Any things that maybe are on your mind? Any concerns?
I had a question.
Yeah.
So like, how is it like for the homework and stuff? Like, how is that and like the grading system? For...
Yeah. So as long as you're submitting things, you should be getting credit for it. This is a credit, no credit course, meaning that you're not going to get like an A through F grade. And so once you're done with Summer Bridge, you'll get a credit on your transcript. And so, you know, it counts as an elective unit. Students need a certain amount of elective units to get to that 120, and we'll talk more about this later this week, but in order to graduate, you need to reach the 120 unit threshold. Some students, because they have more, I would say, demanding majors, you'll probably go over the 120, but that unit is going to count towards those 120 that you need to complete. And so it's not counting towards your GPA. So it's not like you're going to start off, you know, if you don't do it, you'll start off with a bad GPA. It's just counting towards the graduation requirements.
And like, what about for like SSU, like the classes, like the GEs and stuff like that?
Oh, okay. Are you just like during the academic year? So grading wise, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Some classes you have to get a grade for. So you have to get an A through F grade. You can take up to, I want to say it's 24 units. I'm gonna have to check on that number of credit, no credit courses. So let's say, remind me again, Alondra, what your intended major is.
Chemistry.
Okay, chemistry. So let's say, you know, you have to take a history class, but you're like, you know, history is just really not my strongest subject. I'd rather focus really on my chemistry courses and take that GE class for credit, no credit. You can do that. And you have the first 2 weeks of the semester, you have the opportunity to change the grading process. To change it to a credit, no credit. So that means that the course is not going to affect your GPA if you do well, so it's not going to boost it, but it's also not going to affect your GPA if you don't pass the class. And you need to get at least a 70, which is considered a C- or better in the course. So you still will get graded, kind of, you know, you'll get points and everything. But when they enter the grade into the system, as long as you met that 70% grade in the class, then you'll get credit for that. And so I encourage, especially my STEM majors, if kind of the social sciences are not really your area, to take those credit, no credit. Um, that does mean though that the classes that you are getting graded, you need to do well in, so that you can kind of boost up your GPA. And if you do well, let's say you take 4 classes, but one of them is credit, no credit, and you get A's in those 3 classes, then that definitely boosts up your GPA. So that's kind of the way it works. Berenice, I know you have your hand raised. I don't know if you have a question. Maybe not. Okay. All right. Any other? Okay. Any other questions?
For that credit, no credit option, can you also do it in other subjects as well? Okay.
Yeah, you can, as long as it's not your major courses. Your major courses need to get an actual grade. The only time that wasn't the case was right now because of COVID. They allowed students to change that even for major courses because it's not your fault that we're going remote. I don't know if that policy will continue on to the fall semester, but as of right now, that's, at least for the spring semester, that's how it went. But again, you can only do a certain amount of credit, no credit. I wouldn't encourage you to do, all your classes with that. Otherwise, your GPA just isn't going to be, it's just going to be there and it's not going to be moving up. Um, so yeah, so I mean, like I said, right now you're getting kind of a little preview of what the courses will be like. Some courses are, professors are not going to be on top of you and telling you, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. So this is kind of how it goes. And that's one of the biggest differences between high school and college. And one of the biggest tips I can tell you right now is to please take everything that you do seriously. It's very, very easy to bring down your GPA, and it's very, very hard to bring it back up, especially the way that that courses are graded and kind of the way that they're weighted on your GPA. And I can tell you from experience, when I was a student, I messed up the semester because I took my job way too seriously. And it was very, very hard after I ended up getting a pretty good GPA, but it took a lot of semesters and a lot of just, aiming to get A's in all my courses to really bring up my GPA. So that's not to scare you, that's just to kind of put that warning out there, to really take it seriously and really try your best. Because one of the biggest things that I guess that hurts me is when I have to see students leave the university because of their GPA. Because I know that a number does not define who you are, but unfortunately those are policies that are in place. So didn't mean to end on that sad note, but you all are amazing. Thank you so much for your dedication, for being here. I appreciate you all. I appreciate your time. I know that it's not fun being on a computer screen. It's not fun for me. It's not fun for the leaders, but we really are here for you. And I hope that, day 3, hopefully you can connect a little bit more. And I hope to see you all during the trivia. I'll probably stop for a little bit. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and head out. I don't know if our faculty, I think, joined right at 10. So you have a little bit of a break if you want to go and have breakfast, I guess. Cool. Well, I'll
Yeah.
stick around for a little bit. Ada, I don't know if you have something to add.
No, I was gonna say, please get snacks, get food. Yeah, take care of yourselves. If you need to go to the bathroom, turn off your camera, come back. At certain people, you know who you are. Get food.
Call them out. No, I'm kidding.
All right, good morning, everyone. How are you all doing? So I guess we'll just get started here. Let me see. Today we're going to look at James Baldwin's article. Let me share the screen here with you. Yeah. All right, good. So can everyone see this? Can you see it? Okay, good. And let me see if I can, with PowerPoint here, if I can have a bigger screen so you can have a better view even. So I hope that everyone had a chance to read the essay by James Baldwin, A Talk to Teachers. I'm going to walk you a little bit through that today because here's our agenda. I'm going to give you a little bit of a background about who is James Baldwin and how, you know, why he was part of an important part of the civil rights movement, along with other activists that you probably heard of, like Martin Luther King. And then race and how it affects worldviews and perceptions. And we're going to do a discussion activity. I will have you maybe get together in breakout rooms and discuss the notes that you turned in for your homework last night. Okay, and then we'll talk about, if we have time, a little bit about the homework. Now, before I forget, I want to ask you all if everyone got my announcement, or I want to make sure that you all got my announcement about the taking notes in lecture. I didn't have time to cover that yesterday, but I went ahead and shared a document with you because, like I said, that was a good skill for you to have. So if you have any trouble getting the document, please let me know. Now, I know some of you asked for access to it, and I'm wondering if anybody looked at it and if you found it helpful in taking notes while you were listening to the lecture by Professor Johnson. Yeah.
I think it was refreshing to just review like how to take notes. So yeah.
Yeah, it's something we know how to do, right? Yeah, anyone else?
It made it easier to like go back and look at the like main points rather than reading like the whole long thing again.
Right. Okay, wonderful. Good. Anyone else? Let's see here. Abigail, did you find it helpful?
Yeah, I did. It helped me get to the point of what he's saying and understand it better.
Okay, good. How about you, Peyton? Was it good to have that for taking notes for lecture? Was it helpful to you?
Yeah, it kind of helped me filter out the good from the bad.
Okay, yeah, the ones that you really needed to take note of. Now, I'm curious also in terms of Professor Johnson's lecture on the article. Were there any on the essay about a talk to teachers? Did you all have any questions that came up for you, or you know, any aha moments that made the connections that you felt was helpful? And just to sort of go ahead and before I talk about the article more, the essay a little bit more, just unmute your microphone and jump in. Guadalupe, did I say your name right? Are you there? No. How about Ingrid? Do you have any questions or any aha moments from the lecture?
I don't have any questions, but it was just helpful. I watched both the videos you sent out, so it was helpful when I was reading through myself, just to see what the woman had said herself and how I saw it too on the reading.
On the reading, oh, okay, Professor Kim Esther Williams, is that what you're referring to, the lecture?
Yeah, yeah.
The one on taking notes. Yeah, I thought it was really good to have that modeling of how she would read it too. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Anyone else? Alondra?
I forgot who said it, but I agree with that. I think it was Lizette that said it was just like refreshing to go over how to take notes, because
Right.
like we're out of school for so long that we like lost all of our habits. Well, at least I did.
Yeah. It's good to be aware that, oh, okay, I can be, an active reader right now, and then here are some ways that I already know, but it's good to bring it to the surface like all of you are saying. Good, thank you. I'm glad that most of you found that helpful. And maybe in a minute, what I'll ask you to do is maybe look at the notes that you submitted last night or yesterday, and then in the chat box, just jot down some of the things that you found to be that you think are key points in your notes about, well, what is Baldwin's key argument? What is his thesis? So why don't you take a couple of minutes and just do that, like a highlight, like what is Baldwin, what do I think Baldwin is arguing here? Or maybe a question that you had that wasn't clear about, Baldwin's stance about education.
Are we saying out loud what we think the main point is?
I was saying that go ahead and put that in the chat box, and then that way everybody gets a chance to talk. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to drop that in the chat box. Is everyone able to get the where you go to the chat box? Or is anyone having trouble? So it's at the, I guess, on the menu where it says more, you can do that. And also you can write Alt-H or type Alt-H. All right. So I think Baldwin's main argument is that the Black man is trying to be successful in a society that isn't designed for him to be successful. Yes, absolutely. That's one of the, so it's almost like always going against the grain, right? Education equals self-awareness, so they can construct their own decisions in life. Definitely, definitely. One of his other arguments addresses the issues of self-identity, since society plays a strong role in how people view the world. Yeah, and identity in your free writes, a lot of you were talking about, you know, finding yourself, and to me, I was reading that as like, you know, getting to have a say on how you individuate and how your identity, how you get to sort of construct your own identity. And so for Baldwin, doing that without those images coming in from media to affect how you already view yourself is really important. So it's important for the teacher to be waking up students to say, well, you know, you don't want to necessarily be following the images that society is feeding into your psyche, because some of those images can be defeating, right? And so as you, so I think he's saying that part of the duty of a teacher is to help students break out of the way society constructs them, right? And then that brings us to the paradox, which we'll discuss later. Because once you wake students up and you give them awareness of how society is oppressive and how it works against them, then they may not be good working bees, right? They may not be obedient to just accept things as they are, right? Which we're seeing now in the streets. You know, that's what people are protesting, is like, we cannot just accept this kind of normal, right? So that's part of it. So his main purpose of composing this essay is to criticize the paradoxical ideas of educational systems towards the Black community. Exactly, right. And we will talk about the paradoxes shortly, or I want to give you all an opportunity to talk about them. So as you all are typing, this is wonderful. I'm really enjoying reading those. Here to go here. I'm going to open this up here. So just like a little bit of a background about the historical context of the essay, and you probably already heard that in Professor Johnson's talk, but this was at the time of the civil rights movements, right? And as you saw, students in Harlem were slowly desegregating. And so understanding the historical context of writers, and I would invite you and encourage you to really think about that in many of the readings that you and the classes that you take, is to think about, you know, well, what is the historical context of this particular document, and especially in the humanities. When you're doing that, when you're reading something, it's much easier to understand it when you put it in historical context. So when I'm teaching literature, I always spent a big part of my lecture, you know, setting up what is the historical context that this writer is coming from, and then everything else starts to really come into place, and makes much more sense. And of course, the audience is really important to be thinking about when you're writing your essay, because you want to be thinking about, well, what are their expectations? And so I would hope that the teachers who are reading this at this time were very much interested in understanding what Baldwin's perspective is, because of the way that the educational system for minorities is flawed. Okay, so another way to look at his thesis is that it's a teacher's duty to get African American students to critically challenge and examine society rather than conform to society, especially with society, you know, like the media having such negative and limited viewpoints of African Americans. And also this kind of predominant belief that, yes, you know, slavery, you know, is something that they like doing because, you know, that's all they know how to do. And sort of, so you, as a teacher, it's important to help students break out of that, not conform to that kind of structure. So it's very important. So please go ahead, keep typing away. I'm going to back up and say, well, why is Baldwin's work so important to, you know, civil rights movements in the United States? And I'm going to show you a video. All right, we're going to have a new share here. It's a quick video about his significance and contributions to that culture. All right, so let's go ahead and put that here. Oh, whoops, I need to share it with audio. There we
go. Over the course of the 1960s, the FBI amassed almost 2,000 documents in an investigation into one of America's most celebrated minds. The subject of this inquiry was a writer named James Baldwin. At the time, the FBI investigated many artists and thinkers, but most of their files were a fraction of the size of Baldwin's. During the years when the FBI hounded him, he became one of the best-selling Black authors in the world. So what made James Baldwin loom so large in the imaginations of both the public and the authorities? Born in Harlem in 1924, he was the oldest of 9 children. At age 14, he began to work as a preacher. By delivering sermons, he developed his voice as a writer, but also grew conflicted about the church's stance on racial inequality and homosexuality. After high school, he began writing novels and essays while taking a series of odd jobs. But the issues that had driven him away from the church were still inescapable in his daily life. Constantly confronted with racism and homophobia, he was angry and disillusioned and yearned for a less restricted life. So in 1948, at the age of 24, he moved to Paris on a writing fellowship. From France, he published his first novel, Go Tell It on the Mountain, in 1953. Set in Harlem, the book explores the church as a source of both repression and hope. It was popular with both Black and white readers. As he earned acclaim for his fiction, Baldwin gathered his thoughts on race, class, culture, and exile in his 1955 extended essay, Notes of a Native Son. Meanwhile, the civil rights movement was gaining momentum in America. Black Americans were making incremental gains at registering to vote and voting, but were still denied basic dignities in schools, on buses, in the workforce, and in the armed services. Though he lived primarily in France for the rest of his life, Baldwin was deeply invested in the movement and keenly aware of his country's unfulfilled promise. He had seen family, friends, and neighbors spiral into addiction, incarceration, and suicide. He believed their fates originated from the constraints of a segregated society. In 1963, he published The Fire Next Time, an arresting portrait of racial strife in which he held white America accountable. But he also went further, arguing that racism hurt white people too. In his view, everyone was inextricably enmeshed in the same social fabric. He had long believed that people are trapped in history, and history is trapped in them. Baldwin's role in the civil rights movement went beyond observing and reporting. He also traveled through the American South, attending rallies, giving lectures of his own. He debated both white politicians and Black activists, including Malcolm X, and served as a liaison between Black activists and intellectuals and white establishment leaders like Robert Kennedy. Because of Baldwin's unique ability to articulate the causes of social turbulence in a way that white audiences were willing to hear, Kennedy and others tended to see him as an ambassador for Black Americans, a label Baldwin rejected. And at the same time, his faculty with words led the FBI to view him as a threat. Even within the civil rights movement, Baldwin could sometimes feel like an outsider for his choice to live abroad, as well as his sexuality, which he explored openly in his writing at a time when homophobia ran rampant. Throughout his life, Baldwin considered it his role to bear witness. Unlike many of his peers, he lived to see some of the victories of the civil rights movement. But the continuing racial inequalities in the United States weighed heavily on him. Though he may have felt trapped in his moment in history, his words have made generations of people feel known, while guiding them toward a more nuanced understanding of society's most complex issues. Learn about other trailblazers of the civil rights movement with these videos.
All right, so any thoughts you all about the video? Sorry, is everybody? All right, there you are. I had a moment of panic there. I couldn't find the Zoom. I'm like, oh my God. Any thoughts?
I think
What did it add to your understanding of his essay and about him as a person?
I just thought it was interesting how they labeled him as an ambassador for the Black people, and then he like rejected it. Like I can see maybe the good intentions, but it just wasn't. I don't know. It didn't sit right.
With who? With
like the Black community.
Yeah.
Like they labeled him as just that, because I'm sure there's so many more people like.
Right, and so that's why he was, you know, so you're saying, you know, you're questioning, well, why was he rejecting that, right, as a label, and that he didn't want to be seen. I think what I hear you saying is that he didn't want to be seen as the only, right, person who is able to talk and express himself. Yeah, I also thought it was interesting, you know, saying, you know, refusing to be labeled as something, right? Like, I'm not one thing or the other. Yeah. Good. Anyone else?
I think that like background information kind of gave his piece credibility.
Yes, that it gave him more credibility in doing that, right? Yes. Anyone else? Kiana, are you all able to put yourself on video? It's much easier for me to see because I can see your reactions. If you all can, there you go.
Yeah, so when I was watching the video, I thought it was just very empowering to see, like, no matter like he just like how he like put his sexuality out there, no matter the consequences, and like he knew he was gonna get hate for it, like he knew deep inside that he should just like be himself and express that. So I thought that was very empowering and motivational.
Yeah, because I mean, he was doing this at a time when, you know, it's almost like he realized himself at an early age that he's doubly oppressed, right? Being gay and being an African American and Black person in America. But he wasn't willing, so we can see where he's coming from, because if he had conformed, it was almost like, you know, he was always considered to be a troublemaker because he was always pushing the boundaries of society and questioning them, right? Yeah. All right, great. Anyone else want to share? Yeah, that's great that you're all coming back to the video. If the rest of you could also do that, that would be really good. For when we're doing discussion, at least.
I just wanted to say that before this essay, I didn't know who James Baldwin was. I never heard of him. And so I didn't really have any background context other than the time period that was going on. So when I read this article or essay, and it was just, I found like a deep respect for James. And I was like, I was just very, very cool to read something that was written over 50 years ago, but still applies today. I mean, not that that idea is cool, but it just was very interesting to me. And then now watching that video and kind of understanding more of who he is, I just found a deeper respect for him and just really appreciate what he's done, and that he didn't conform and that he kept doing what he believed in, and made it easier for people today to also speak out on similar issues.
Yeah, he laid a lot of the foundation, right? Yeah. Yeah, and I agree with what you're saying. I mean, it's very unsettling even to be reading this today and realizing, oh wow, this we could be reading this. It's 1963, and we could be reading this right now, right?
To be honest, when I first started reading this, I didn't really look at the date or the prefix. I just kind of got into it. And then I noticed there was some dated references like Khrushchev and all that. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then I looked back and then I was like, oh my gosh, this was written 57 years ago. Like I honestly I thought it was written yesterday. Like it completely blew when I actually looked at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyone else have that reaction? Did anyone else have that reaction? Not look at the date right away? But what I want to comment is that it was very, go back to the idea of historical context. So that was really good, Denise, that you were looking at, well, those references are older. They're not talking about today. And so it's almost in a way to go back and look at the date of something that has been written, right? So so that's always a good thing to be doing, and to check, are the references new when you're using references for your paper, to at least note that. But with literature and writers like James Baldwin, those are important things. I'm curious, how many of you, and for those who still weren't able to get on the screen, please raise your hand. How many of you know Langston Hughes, or have heard of Langston Hughes, the poet? Rose, you have, okay. How many of you have read some of his work? Rose.
My sophomore English teacher made us read that all the time.
Made
all
you read
the time.
Okay, and do you want to share some of the things that you felt about? I'm going to have you listen to one of his poems, but do you want to say anything about that? Share.
Honestly, sophomore year, we read poems all the time, and I didn't even really like poems, so I didn't even really pay attention.
Oh, you were?
Like, probably, I'll tell you, how about I tell you how I feel? I'll tell you my feelings after.
I love your honesty. I love your honesty, Rose.
Yeah,
we all do, I think. We all do.
Can't lie.
See, Peyton's on the same page. What were you going to say? You were going to say something?
Oh, I said I'll tell you how I feel after you play the one that you were going to
play. Okay. All right. So I'm going to put a poem, but so don't go away, because I could get panicked, like, oh, did I lose everyone? Okay, I'm going to share the screen here. Oh, let's see, okay, good, I have the sound. All right, so it's called Mother to Son.
Well, son, I'll tell you. Life for me ain't been no crystal stair. It's had tacks in it. and splinters. And boards torn up. And places with no carpet on the floor. Bare. But all the time I's been a-climbing on. And reaching landings. And turning corners. And sometimes going in the dark where there ain't been no light. So boy, don't you turn back. Don't you sit down on the steps 'cause you find it's kinda hard. Don't you fall now. Fires are still going, honey. Eyes are still climbing. And life for me ain't been no crystal stair.
All right, there you all are. All right, so how'd you all feel?
I felt that it could be something relatable to. Like, it's very understanding. I mean, you can understand what that person is going through.
Right. And how does it do that for us? Is it, you know, what makes us makes it understandable for us?
I think that poem was a walk of her life and how she struggled every time, just moving through whatever she's going through.
Right, so there's that ancestral, his mother's voice, right? And that her struggle, right? And that he has to continue. So we can relate to that. Anyone else? Or anything you noticed about the poem, or that how it affected you, or anything like that?
One thing I liked about the poem was the language that was used. It wasn't very formal, it was very informal language, and it was really made me feel like it was just a mother talking to her son.
Yes.
Giving her advice to him, which I thought was really personal. And it didn't feel like only she was talking to her son, but also to me, saying that for people who are oppressed or going through challenges, life isn't a crystal stair, and there were all splinters and missing boards and challenges. But if she can make it, so can we. And that was really, really cool. I like that.
Yeah, it's inspiring to keep pushing forth, right? Keep pushing forward. Yeah, anyone else?
I like when she told her son that he can't give up just because it gets hard and sit on like the doorstep or whatever, because it'll always be hard, and he just has to keep going because that's how life will then.
Right. So the idea of keeping going, we can see that in Baldwin's own personal life, right? And we see that in today, where with the protests and everything, you know, African Americans and minorities groups are sort of saying, you know, we're just going to keep going, right? So I want to take a minute to talk about, you know, or say, first of all, my own thing is like, why do we have to, you know, why does it have to be so hard, right? And how did we get to, I mean, this is what really, for me, is my journey is trying to, why I went to school and graduate school was because, you know, I grew up in the Middle East, and I wanted to understand, well, why are women treated as, you know, incapable? Why are they? So I was kind of, I had a James Baldwin in me. I'm like, I'm not going to just not question things. Wait, something is wrong here. Why are women oppressed? Why are women treated as second-class citizens? And of course, I got a lot of pushback, nothing, not to compare to, you know, I wasn't, I started actually even writing essays before I came to the States, and publishing them when the internet first came forth, and talking about women's oppression. And I got a, you know, really positive responses from other women in the US feeling that. But the reason that I started wanting to go on my own journey of education is to find out what has caused women to be oppressed throughout the ages. And I had this idea that I was going to discover this. And part of, you know, part of what happens are different factors that, that start to play and shape how we think and our culture. So a big part of school for me was undoing a lot of the patterns and the socializations that I've learned, or that people were trying to make me learn. But I'm going to show you a chart as to, you know, some of them. Of course, it's not all of everything. It doesn't explain everything, but it's a good start to be thinking about, where do we start getting those ideas of that it's okay for women to be treated, you know, as oppressed. Now, of course, James Baldwin is talking from a boy's perspective, because that's his perspective. And that's important to share. But we want to look at, I want to take a minute to look at, you know, how we can easily take equality for granted. So I'm going to make this a little bit of a bigger, so you all can see. So what is it that affects, you know, this is race, but you can't really look at race, you know, a lot of the theories today look at the intersection between race and gender and social class, right? So it's all of those, and those are interwoven within the essay that James Baldwin wrote. But right here, we're just going to look at race, but just know that it also applies to gender and social class, that those really are behind the scenes working together. But if you look at this graph, you know, and ask those questions, like for instance, where did I grow up? So the environment of growing up, you know, not just within the small environment of growing up, but the larger society, right, where you grew up, the neighborhood where you grew up, that affects racial how one perceives race. School experiences also affect, you know, racial viewpoints. One's own race or ethnicity affect that. You know, economic status, like I was saying, social class, religious and spiritual upbringing, right? So all of those kind of pretty much work together to create someone's perspective. And so we were talking about, you know, Baldwin addressing the white teachers and looking at, you know, do I see something teachers should ask themselves, but everyone should ask themselves is, do I see the world through a privileged status, right? Or a non-privileged status? And it's important, if you see the world through a privileged status, then you're going to probably be unaware of when you are being racially biased, right? Sometimes even unconsciously. Have I ever been othered by, you know, people? How do racial issues affect my education and career, right? It's something to think about. You know, do I have a chance of getting into this school or that school if I'm, you know, from a different ethnic background, which affects, you know, what schools I got my education from? How is the world segregated today? You know, How are schools still segregated? And so those are all questions that, you know, you want to be thinking about when even, when you're writing your essay, really, because that's going to be really important, is to think about, how are those views affecting my education? Because the essay prompt that you're going to write is going to address education and your view of education. And you're going to synthesize Baldwin and the essay that you're going to read tomorrow, synthesize those points of views to shape it. So what I want to invite you to do is ask yourself those questions. So take notes, of them, and be thinking about how do these essays get me to rethink my education and to have a more kind of focused viewpoint, because, so as not to be on the lookout and aware of any racial biases, or also maybe, sometimes, I know when I was when I was getting my graduate degrees here, I was always worried about, how would my writing, be perceived by professors, because I come from, the Middle East and from Syria. So I was always working harder. And so it's because, I was aware. And so I wanted to always prove, no, I actually have the intellect and ability to write really good papers and to be a really good thinker. I sometimes think that maybe that was pushing myself way too hard, right? Because I wasn't, I was always worried about how I would be perceived, or how my work would be perceived. So in some ways it worked with me, for me, but in other ways maybe it worked against me. But I was also, I was aware that if I made a grammatical error, that may be looked at as like, well, it's because, you're from Syria, even though I was bilingual. And so trying to make sure not to have them. And that may have taken, made my experience a little bit, maybe made me feel like more self-conscious and aware. So just being aware of those kinds of the things that affect our other people's racial viewpoints of us is important, because it helps you, if you're aware of it, you can work to really push against it sometimes, right? Rather than necessarily always be worried or conforming, right? So in a way I could have owned, well, yeah, I missed the comma here, so what, right? But I wasn't, I tend to be more of a perfectionist. But I think it's important when you're thinking about your paper, you want to be thinking about, all right, so what are my views of education, and how have they changed now? And how does Baldwin help me really think about them and reshape how I'm going to move forward in terms of being aware about my own education? Now, what do you all think? I'm going to stop share here for a minute. Hopefully you've taken the notes so I can see you. Now that you've seen that graph, do you have anything else you want to add to it, or any thoughts about it? Thinking of someone who hasn't talked to this today. I'm gonna say here, Yolita, can you help me say your name?
Yulita.
Yulita?
Yeah, yeah, Yulita.
Yulita and Yalit. You were gonna say something to Yulita and Yalit, is that right?
Yeah, Yalit.
Yalit, okay. So Yulita, do you want to start, and then maybe Yalit can say something? Share something about your reaction to or maybe what it has added to your thoughts about education or Baldwin's essay.
I feel like Baldwin, like when he's trying to say like education, I feel like he wants, like Black people to understand like their actual culture, and from there like try to be successful and make a change, and try to like motivate others to also not just like, because like in school they teach us stuff, but like I feel like he wants like them to really know things that they have done in the past, you know, so then that can influence them and then make them become better.
Mm-hmm. Right. So in a way, I hear you saying is he doesn't want them to forget their past or forego all their identity, right? Who they are,
Yeah.
but bring it into school, bring it into education, allow African American or Black students to bring their experience into education, right? And if that means, you know, like some of you commented on Langston Hughes' use of eyes, right? Using the language that his mother used, that's part of bringing his upbringing into the poem, right? That's like, this is my language, claiming that language, right? Rather than just speaking in the dominant English language. So great, good. Yoluda, right?
You later.
I think huh?
You later.
You later. All right. I want to get all your names right. You later. All right. Thank you. Yalid? You want to add to any or add anything?
Adding on to what she said, I also feel like he mentioned how they kind of see their past as like humiliating, and he kind of wants them to see it as something, change it into something positive, and how they've like contributed to the culture, he said. So yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. So embracing your identity, embracing your past, right? Rather than rejecting it. Beautiful, beautiful. Anyone else who hasn't gone? Let's see. Juliana, are you there? No. Okay. Ingrid, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. You want to say anything?
Not really.
All right. All right, so Abigail is saying that Baldwin articulated the pain of what Black people felt. Let me try. Are you all able to read that? From Peyton, good point. All right, thank you. Where's Ashante? She was just here. Ingrid, all right, checkpoint, everyone. So I'll just go ahead and say what Ingrid said. I wanted to say that Baldwin articulated the pain of what Black people felt in a way that even Black people could understand the oppression they were experiencing. I think it's important to put your feelings into words because then you can understand it and do something about it. It's very impressive. He did that. Yes, right. So speak your truth. Embrace your own identity. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Wonderful. All right. Anyone else? Abigail, do you want to add anything? Would you like to? I know you spoke, but I wanted to.
No, not really. That's just been going around my mind, so I just wanted to say that.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let's see. Try to stick to the schedule here if I can. So we have about 10 more minutes. I would like to, in case we run out of time, I would like to suggest for further readings, if you are interested in the topic and want to learn more about it, reading something also more current is White Fragility. That's by Robin DiAngelo. And you can actually Google her, and there are some interviews and a talk where she talks about white fragility. And another book that is called Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race is really a good book. The writer, Renee Ida Lodge, is from England. So she's writing about her perspective about race in England, but I think it's pretty, what she's talking about is very relevant here in the US. So, so in a little bit, I wanted you to have a chance to share your ideas about, oh, I think, am I still sharing the screen here? I don't think you all can see my PowerPoint, right?
No.
All right, so let's see here if I can leave some of these. All right. I wanted you to share some of your reflections. All right, I'll share the screen on the readings. All right, there. So here are some discussion questions. I was going to have you go into breakout rooms to discuss that. So we have, actually, I don't think we have, how much time do we have, Araceli, can I ask?
So 11 is it's 10:52.
So it's at 11, so it's not 50, it's, okay, so we have 10 minutes?
Yeah,
about 10 minutes, okay. So, all right, thank you. So let's do this, let's have everyone then, well, here's this, what's more productive for you all, to talk about the structure of the essay or to take a little bit of time to share your responses and notes about of homework together as groups of 2 or 3?
I like hearing what other people have to say about the same assignment that I've done, because it makes me realize other points of view on it, so I can better understand the text that we were going through.
Okay, all right. So so let's go ahead and do that then. Thank you. Anyone else have any preference? Okay, so so we'll go with what Denise said and let's stick to the agenda. So so you can see the question, you can see the questions here, or do you see my screen? So in your own words, describe what Baldwin considers to be the purpose of education. And then I guess we did answer that question. So how about we talk about the paradox, okay? Define paradox according to Baldwin. What is the paradox of society? Do you agree or disagree, and why? So I see chats here. So did anyone I third that, I second that. Okay, so there are others are in agreement with that. And thank you. I'm glad you all like, oh, can you put the books in the chat? I would love to check that out. Yes, I will send you, how about I send you an announcement and a link to where they are? Would that work? Are you all getting my announcements? Okay, I'll send you a link to the books and some links to the talks. All right, yes, you're interested in outside reading. That's wonderful. So I'll do that after we end. So let's go ahead. I can go around the room and talk about how you all address. So pull up your notes if you are able to do that, please. And we'll just go by order. How did you address the paradox in your notes today or last night? So who wants to start, or should I just call on you? Don't disappear on me, those who are not showing in the screen. Lizeth, do you want to start since you're the first somehow on the screen?
Can I go like second?
After, okay. Let's see. Abigail, do you want to go? You're next. We can go horizontally or vertically.
So I'm supposed to be sharing my thoughts?
Yeah, anything, your notes that you wrote about the paradoxes of education.
So while I was reading through the paper, the article, he mentioned about how Black people rise to the flag, and then they, the Pledge of Allegiance, how it says liberty and justice for all.
Yes.
And then like a sentence after that, he says, but on the other hand, he is also assured by his country and his countrymen that he has never contributed anything to civilization. I think that's a paradox of how people, it's like they're forcing the thought of freedom onto Black people, but it's not really showing on how they live their lives.
Right, yes, absolutely, perfect. That's a really good example of where he addresses that paradox in the passage. So society is giving you conflicting messages, right? So that's really good. I'm thinking of an example, and I feel terrible. I can't remember the name of the player who refused to do the Pledge of Allegiance. And I know the, well, was he in the NFL or the, was that what it was?
It's Colin Kaepernick.
Right. So that's kind of expressing a similar view to Baldwin, right? That he's talking about, because he's saying, wait, you're giving conflicting messages here, and so I'm not going to take the Pledge of Allegiance, right? And then there was a big controversy, but now, you know, they're realizing, well, he was right. They should have listened to him. So good point. Anyone else have anything? Kiana, you're next. Did you have anything else, or you all can jump in if Kiana doesn't? Anything else that adds to the paradox where he talks about, addresses the paradox?
So I think I found something in the first paragraph where he talks about, like, in order to help so many generations of kids who were taught wrong things, I guess, like, you have, so in order to help people, you almost have to be ready to, like, face, like, brutality and, like, intense situations. And so almost like you have to like unteach what they have been taught, kind of.
Unlearn, yeah, what you've been taught. So you're addressing the violence. I think that was another part that where he addresses the paradox, right? The aspect of violence, right, criminality. So in the next 2 minutes, how about the next question is like, what are 3 things that you would say that he would say that his viewpoints about education, and those could be points you could use for your paper. So 3 things. So let's go have everyone say one point about education, and we'll combine them into 3.
Something he mentioned, he was like talking about how the purpose of education, like it says here, the purpose of education is to create in a person the ability to look at the world for himself and make his own choices. But then something else he mentioned, so he's pretty much saying, like someone mentioned that earlier, that he was saying that the purpose of education was about self-awareness and knowing right and wrong and making their own choices. But then he also brought up that society doesn't want that, and they just want us to obey. So I just found that interesting.
Yes, that's a really interesting contradiction, right? And if you think about it, children have to learn to, you know, go to school from the morning. So all of that gets their bodies learning to be good workers, right? And to kind of conform. So yeah, so this is a really good point, that it's a contradiction. You know, you don't want to be having to conform because not everything society says is right. So I think on that note, you have to go into English, but I will send you an announcement with this information, and also with your assignment for tomorrow, okay? All right, and I will hand it over to, great discussion, everyone. Thank you. And I will
Thank you.
leave. All right. Let's see. Bye-bye. Stop share. And
all right. Good morning, everyone. I'm feeling like maybe you might need a little break after that session. I think we're supposed to end that session at 10:50. So we'll have to kind of tweak that in the future, but I don't want to go right into another class without giving you a moment to, you know, do what you need to do, maybe eat or, you know, whatever you need to do for 5 minutes. So let's meet back at 11:05 and we'll get started then. Okay, see you then. All right, so it's 11:05. The first thing I wanted to do today was I want to have you complete a survey. The questions in this survey were compiled by Dr. Martha Schott, she's kind of the supervisor of all of the quantitative reasoning sections. And she took questions from each of the cohorts, and I think a couple of our questions are in there, the questions you asked in your breakout rooms. And we're gonna try to compile data for all the cohorts. So I think we have, can't remember, 11, 12, some 13 cohorts. And so we'll have a lot of, we'll have a lot of data to look at. So when you're looking at data, you always like to have more if possible. So I'm gonna take us over to our Canvas page where I have a link for the survey. So if you, on day 3, if you want to head over there on Canvas, you'll see right below the do it section, it says do this survey. So you're going to click that link and there's several questions, I don't know, maybe 10 questions. And once you complete that survey, just come on back here and we will do some work with our M&Ms. And if you don't have your M&Ms, I got you covered. I'll let you know what you can do if you don't have those. So yeah, go ahead and complete that survey now.
And where was that survey?
Oh, it's on day 3 on Canvas, and right below the do it section, do this survey, and that should be a live link there. Is that working? Let me know if that doesn't work for anyone, and I can put the link in the chat if that's not working. And when you're finished, if you know how to find that thumbs up emoji, that would be great. Or actually you could just use your real thumb. And if you have any questions, you can hit me in the chat or do the raise your hand emoji or use your real hand.
Could you put the link in the chat? I can't seem to find it.
Did you try it on the Canvas page and it didn't work, or?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, let me get that for you. Okay. All right, there it is.
Thank you.
Sure. All right, are we still working on it? Just want to get a sense of how close we are, or is it? If you are done with it, could you give me a thumbs up? All right, thank you. All right, just going to give us another minute, and if you don't finish, that's okay. You can finish later. That link will be up, and if it doesn't work for you later, I can send you another link. So we'll just do another minute. Okay. All right. So that data is getting compiled over the next couple of days, and hopefully we can see the results for all the cohorts at some point. Okay. So we're working on box plots. You watched some videos about how those are constructed. So today I wanted to, here, let me bring up my video. Today I wanted to collect some data on our M&Ms and make a box plot. And there's a number of box plots we can make based on different colors of M&Ms, but the first thing we need to do is compile the data. So the first thing we need to do is a similar thing that we did yesterday. We're going to go to a shared Google Sheet, and you're individually going to count the number of each color that you have in your M&M package, and you're going to record that in a Google Sheet. And if you do not have those M&Ms or that M&M data, let me know. I have a little virtual M&M counter that I can send to you. So the M&M, the link to the sheet, I believe, is on our Canvas page. So let's go over there and see where that link is. Should be on day 3, and it says for this session we will be using our class's M&M data. And if I click that link, it takes me here. And again, if that's not working for you, I can send you that link in the chat. But you should see this this spreadsheet, and I filled in my data already for my package. So go ahead. I think I made it editable for you, so you should be able to start a row just like you did yesterday. So go ahead and break those M&Ms open if you haven't, and count up your M&Ms. And once we've all done that, we'll have some data that we can make box plots with. And I'll check in the chat here to see if anybody needs the link to the M&M counter, the virtual M&M counter. Okay, let me get that link for the counter. Okay, so for anyone who needs that link, that's in the chat box now. And when you follow that link, you just click on the bag of M&Ms and it counts them up for you.
Is the spreadsheet on day 3 or so I can enter in that?
Yes, and so it says we're going to be, it's right below the survey. It says we're going to be using our M&M data, and I think if that should be a live link to this screen. If not, I'll just link this in the chat.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So it seems like not everyone's on the screen, on the sheet. If you could let me know if you're having any trouble, I can try to get you on there. The more data we can get, the better. Looks like Kiana, you're almost done. You're missing the brown. Maybe you're still counting. Sorry to be pushy if you are, but you're missing that data in the brown cell. Thank you. Okay, so I think is anyone still counting? Needs a few more minutes? Could let me know. Needs another minute. If not, we'll go with this data that we have here. We have a question. Yes, can you eat them now? Once you have recorded them, yes, you can enjoy the M&Ms. All right, here's some more data coming in. Very good. So what I'm going to do in just a second, as Yalid enters some more data, is I'm going to make a box plot from the red M&Ms. So notice that that's a set of quantitative data, right? It's just numbers, the number of red in each bag. So it makes sense to make a box plot for this data. And so I'm going to go through that. And then once I do that, I'm going to put you into groups based on the colors. We'll have 5 groups. Each group will have a color, and your group will work on that box plot. And whatever you don't finish here, it'll be homework, and it'll still be a little homework probably to make it look a little bit neat, because you're going to need to take a photo of it and submit that. Okay, so that's what we're going to do next. And if does anyone need another second, or do we have all the data we're going to get? Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 2 rows out. Okay, so the first step for making a box plot is to order the data from least to greatest, because we need to identify the minimum and the maximum, and then the median and the 2 quartiles, what we call Q1 and Q3. So what's nice about that is, well, I should say what's nice about Google Sheets is it will order that data for you. So the first thing I'm going to do, because it's not really important for our data, is I'm going to just get rid of our names, because that's just there to keep track of the rows while we're entering them. So I'm going to just delete that column. And now I want to order the data in the red column. So I'm going to click A, and then I use date. I click data, and I'm going to sort the range. And you don't have to do this to do the box plot. You can order the data yourself, but it can be kind of hard. Not hard, but it takes a little bit of time sometimes to order it. So if you can do this, saves you a little time. So I've selected column A. I went under data. I'll just do that again. I think I did that a little fast. So I've got column A selected. I go to data, and then I want to sort the range. So the range of data, quantitative data. And I'm going to say yes. Oh, I have to do something else first. I actually have 2 header rows. Header rows are the titles on the top. So it doesn't know how to have 2 header rows. So I'm going to get rid of the top row here. Now I just have 1 header row. Okay. You don't have to worry about any of that. It's now done. So I'm sorting the range. The data has a header row, that the header row shows all the colors. And then I'm going to sort that data. And now it's put them all in order for me. Okay, this makes a box plot much easier to do. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to share. I haven't tried this before. I'm going to mirror my other device here where I can do this by hand, so it looks more like what you'll be doing. Ashante, I will talk to you about that Google account in just one minute. Okay. So bear with me here. This is the first time I have tried this one in real time. Okay. So this is my iPad screen, and I'm going to write down the data here. So the first step for creating my box plot of red M&Ms is to order the data, which was done by me by Google Sheets, and now I'm just going to write it out. So 3 separated by commas is good. 3, 3, 6, 6, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, 11, and 12. Okay, so it's important to note how many values you have. So I have, looks like 13 values altogether. Let me count those again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So I'm gonna, usually we use the little lowercase n to dictate how many values we have in our data set. Okay, it's pretty clear what the minimum is. That's 3. That just means the smallest value in my data set. The maximum is the largest. That is 12. And now I'm going to split it into the quartiles. So quartiles, that means I'm just kind of I'm splitting all my data into 4 chunks. The first thing I want to do is find the median. The median is the center value. So I know we have something called the average, which kind of tells us like a kind of a center value, but it's not really the value in the center. The median is indicating the value in the center. So we find the center value. The center value, when you have an odd number of values, is nice because there's going to be one value in the middle. So it looks to me like the number 9 is the 7th value. It's the one right in the middle. So I'm just gonna like do a little count at the bottom. Oh, hold on a second. Oh, it's not number 9, it's number 8. It's because the big numbers took up more room over there. So notice that the lower half of the data, I have 6 values that are less than 8 and 6 values that are more than 8. So that puts 8 right in the middle. So the median is 8. Okay. Now I need to find the quartiles. So Q1 is really just the median of the lower half of the data. The lower half of the data are those 6 values, the first 6 values. So what's the middle value of the first 6 values? Well, when we have an even number of values there, so there is no single middle value. So what we do is we take the average between the 3rd and 4th values. Here, there's the same value. The value is 6. So we take the average of 6 and 6, which is, of course, 6. So since we have 2 values, have 2 middle values, six. So I'm writing this out. It's obvious that the average between 6 and 6 is 6, but if we had 2 different values, what we would do we would add them together and divide by 2 because that's would be finding the average. So that's what we would calculate if we had 2 different values. Here, it maybe is a little more clear that the middle value should be 6. So Q1 equals 6. So now remember, there's the 5-number summary that we need to make the box plot. The 5-number summary consists of the minimum, the maximum, Q1, the median, and Q3. And so Q3 is found in a similar way to Q1. But Q3 is the median of the upper half of the data. So the upper half of the data so note that we're really just splitting the data into quarters, right? We've split it in half, and now we're splitting it in half again. So to find Q3, we note that we have 10 and 11, which just by a coincidence, 10 and 11 are the 10th and 11th largest values in the data set. That's just a coincidence. So we note that 10 and 11 are the center values. So Q3 is going to equal the average between 10 and 11, which is found by adding them and dividing by 2. So 21 over 2 gets us 10.5. So now we have the 5-number summary. So our 5-number summary is the minimum, Q1, the median, which was 8, Q3, 10.5, oh no, I'm running out of room, and the maximum, which is 12. Sorry about that smushing there. Okay, so that's going to help us a lot making the box plot. So now I'm going to take that. I want to take this data and start drawing the box plot, but there's something else we have to do first. We need to identify outliers. Okay, so I want to create a new, oh, come on. Sorry, I'm new with this program. I just want a new note. Okay. Oh, good. Okay, so here's my data. 3, 3, so the lower values are 3, 3, 6, 6, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 11, 11, and 12. Are any of those really unusual given the set of data? Are any of them extremely large or extremely small? That's what we have to find out. So that we have a calculation that we do to find out what we call the upper fence and the lower fence. So I want a new one. How did I do it? I'm sorry. I did it, but I don't remember how. There we go. Okay, so we're identifying outliers. So a value is an outlier if it is less than the lower fence which is calculated by the value of Q1 minus 1.5 times the IQR. So in our case, what was Q1? Was it 6? I think it was 6. minus this whole product here, which is 1.5 times the IQR. From the video, does anyone remember what IQR stands for?
Interquartile range.
Thank you, perfect. And do you remember how you calculate that interquartile range?
Q3 minus Q1.
That's exactly right. So, oh, okay. So Q3, what was Q3? 10.5, right? 10.5 times minus 6. So this is Q3 minus Q1. So we're using all the data we found in the 5-number summary, or some of it anyway. So we need to do this calculation. So I'm going to ask you guys to do this. This is going to be the lower fence. The upper fence is going to be Q3 plus that same value. So whatever you found for this 1.5 times the IQR, you get to use it again for the upper fence.
For the 10.5 minus 6, it's actually 4.5, not 3.
It is actually 4.5. That's just a fact. That's just wrong. Thank you. That's good, because we would have, if you just listened to me, you would have used that again over there. So nice catch. So let's find those two fences. So go ahead, use your computer's calculator or whatever calculator you may have. And let's find those. So has anybody got a product for here? 1.5 times 4.5. Then we got a value just for that product right there. You can just shout it out.
6.75.
Okay. So we can use that in both fences. And the reason I say is when I subtract 6.75 from 6, this is telling me that all values are outliers that are less than negative 0.75. Well, that's not possible for M&Ms to be negative. So we're not going to have any lower outliers. So no lower outliers exist. So we don't have any unusually small values. Our upper fence, that's maybe 17.25. Do we have, what's our maximum value again?
12.
It was 12. So no values exceed 17.25. So no upper outliers exist. If they did, we would indicate these values with a dot or an asterisk as letting the viewer of our, or the reader of our graph know that there are values that are considered extremely unusual. So we don't have any extremely unusual points, so it makes our box plot a little easier to create. So let's go do that now. All right. So a nice thing to do when you are trying to make it look nice is use a straight edge. I don't know if I can do this on my, there, that's pretty good. And then make sure your number, so this line is supposed to represent a number line, and I want to make sure I get all of my data on this number line, but I also don't want it to be such a large range of numbers that my box plot looks small. So I know I have to, my smallest value is 3, so I think it's okay to start it at 0. That's close to 3. And maybe I'll go all the way up to 15. So you think of like, you just want to zoom in on it so it's large enough, but not cut any of it off. Okay, so to make a box plot, we make a box. So we're going to show Q1. Q1 was 6. Oh yeah, we also want to make sure this is to scale. So as much as we can. Because if our scale on the bottom is distorted, it will make our picture distorted. So if you need to make a ruler, or don't make a ruler, that's kind of a long homework assignment. Use a ruler to make sure your numbers are spaced equally. So you're going to mark Q1 and Q3 with a vertical line. And the height of the line is not important. It's up to your personal style. So our Q1 was 6. Q3 was 10.5. So my Q1 is here. And you don't have to write the Q1 that I just wrote. I'm just writing it to, to keep us, to keep clear what it is that I'm marking. And 13 is probably around here. Oh, sorry, it wasn't 13. It was 10.5. 10.5. Okay, then make a box out of those two lines. Okay, so that's what the box in box plot means. And then we're going to mark the median, which I believe was 8, which is about here. Okay. And here is where, if we had some outliers, this would be a little different. It goes a little different if you have outliers and if you don't. And Dr. Schott has a nice video of, I think, how to approach that. But here, since we don't have outliers, we're extending sometimes they call these little whiskers. It's just that we're going to extend a line to the min and max from Q1 and Q3 respectively, which means we're going to draw the line from Q1 to the min and the line to the max from Q3. So our min was 3. Some people put a little tag there on the end. It's not necessary. And then our max was 12, I think. So that's our max. All right, so this shows the spread. So the spread is how widely dispersed the data is. So it shows how wide it is from min to max, but it also shows if the data is concentrated in one of the quartiles more than the other ones. This box plot looks very evenly spaced out from the quartiles, which makes us feel like it's what we would call symmetric data, that it's not unusually, the data is not unusually distributed in one of the quartiles. Okay, so before we go, I know we're getting close. I want to, first of all, are there any questions on this process? And keep in mind, there is a video, a very nice video, I think, on putting the box plot together. So if you needed to go over this in detail, but was there anything that I just said that just made you, your eyebrows furrow, like, what? That doesn't sound right, or anything like that? Anything that's bugging you about what you just saw? Okay, you can always email me, and again, I'm from 2 to 3 today. You can come see me if you want to look, you want to talk about it in any detail. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to put you into your your groups, and we're gonna name those groups according to the colors of the remaining 5 colors. So let's go breakout rooms. So we can go to 5 rooms. So these will not be the same folks as yesterday. All right, I'm gonna put you in the rooms, but before I do, I wanna give you the, actually what I'll do is I'll just come to each group, I'll tell you which color you got. All right, I'm gonna send you into your rooms. Go ahead and accept that invitation that you will get here. Okay. Okay. All right, so if I've assigned your group a color, that's the group you're working. We're gonna go now, obviously we're done with time. So if you wanna get each other's contact info, if you guys wanna work on that together, so this will be your homework tonight, is to put together that box plot. And you can see if you go on Canvas, there's a more detailed explanation for what you'll have for your final project. And that's all I have for today. come and see me at 2 to 3. I got my Zoom meeting, or visit me in email. I think you don't visit my email. You can contact me versus on email. And I want to talk to Berenice before we go, because I think maybe you didn't get assigned to a group. And I will, if you have any questions before you go, put them in the chat. If not, I will see you tomorrow, if not sooner. And hang around if you did not get into a group. And my Peyton looks like you might not have been assigned either. But if you got a group, you can go. See you later. So Ingrid. All right, so Berenice, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so for some reason you didn't get into one of the groups.
Mm-hmm.
Can I hand you over to? I'm gonna see. Group 2, Berenice, and then you'll be with Denise, who's still here, right?
Okay.
So, and Denise, you guys are blue, right?
Yeah. Hello. Hi.
Okay, so Berenice, you're in blue, and Ingrid, are you there? I think you.
Yeah.
You're there, Ingrid?
Yeah.
Can you join the blue group also? Well, I can move you in that group if I don't see your name on here. Oh no, I already did move you there. Or no, Ingrid, I didn't. Here you go. You're in group 2 now also. So the blue group, 5 folks all together. And then Peyton, are you there?
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Peyton, you're there? I'm gonna put you in, I don't see you here. Peyton, can you just confirm you're around? Can I put you in group 3? I don't see your name here. Oh, hi, Peyton. I'm sorry, your name is just not showing up in the breakout rooms. I'm going to send you an email here in a minute, and I'm going to assign you a group and give you the email addresses of the other people in your group. Does that sound good? Because I think most of those folks are not here now. Okay, anyone else still here that is groupless? Abigail, you good?
Yeah.
All right. Well, all right. Sorry about that the last minute rushing around, but yeah. Any questions? Feel free. Come see me later, and see you tomorrow.
Oh, we're leaving.
Yeah, I think I was supposed to be done at 11:50. I think you might stay. I'm leaving. I think you might be still with Araceli.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Professor.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for being there.
So we should take a break. Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna do a break, everyone, and then be back at what time, Jorge? Wait, unmute yourself.
Yeah.
12 is fine, right? Is that when we start?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
So take a quick break, grab a snack, and then we'll be back at 12 to do breakout rooms.
I have a question. Hello, is it fine?
Oh my gosh, I'm on mute. Awkward.
Did you have something to say?
Wait, yeah, someone said I had a question.
Oh, who did?
I think it was Rose.
It was Rose.
Oh yeah, it was.
Oh,
but
okay.
She left.
I think she left.
Jorge, you're such a freaking vibe. You're like,
No, stop. Don't gas me up. Stop. Don't do that. Is everyone back yet?
if you could please turn on your camera when you're back, that'd be awesome.
Should we start, Ada? Or do you want to wait a little bit?
No, yeah, we can definitely start. Okay.